All right. Hello, everybody. I am excited to see you all here. I have a very special guest tonight with us. I'm going to just pull her on here. Mariel Wilk is here with us. I'm going to let her explain or introduce herself in a minute. We're going to talk a little bit about mindfulness. So, Mariel, why don't you tell us who you are, a little bit about you, what you're going to talk about today, and everything like that.
Sure. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chuck, for having me. And if you're watching, he is an amazing human being, and I am so grateful to be on here with you. So my name is Mariel Wilk, and I am a teacher going on my 6th year of teaching here in Arizona, born and raised, and I am a mindfulness teacher or educator, and super excited to be able to share my passion with kids. I realized that growing up, I wish that I had mindfulness teaching in my education. And I think with that and reflecting on that and having to learn it kind of later in the game, I really found a passion for being able to find a way to teach it in schools and have that foundation that I wish I had growing up.
Very cool. And I think for me, and maybe you can kind of start us off like this, what would you say would be considered mindfulness in education? Or what I think sometimes when people think of mindfulness, especially when it comes to education or teachers, they have different definitions in their brain when they first hear it. I'd love to know, what do you define that as? What would you tell a teacher who says, what exactly is mindfulness when it comes to education?
That's a really, really good question. And I think my first answer to that is kind of, it's what you want to make it. But the nitty gritty of it, really, mindfulness is being able to know your surroundings and have awareness to your being in the moment, being present, and taking in that moment. There's so much stress, there's so much anxiety, depression, hurting in the world, right? And in our own beings, that we're trying to be able to navigate our own emotions and be able to work through our lives and being present and showing up for yourself and for others and the world around you. But mindfulness I feel is a very big encompassing word, that there's so much to it. But really, when it's funny, it's a word that is so kind of huge, but at the end of the day, it's so simple with just being present in your life and showing up.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. I'm big with taking some time for myself, kind of finding I guess you could say self-care opportunities, because I think it's so important and crucial for us to take care of ourselves, right? Totally. But I think sometimes for me, when I think of mindfulness, I almost it kind of goes out of my quote unquote mind, so to speak, because I don't know exactly how to practice that, right? Or sometimes I think, well, does that mean being mindful? Does it just mean I sit for 5 minutes? Do I have to do specific exercises? And I think for me, it's like, all right, well, what would be a good starting point to get me started in the right direction when it comes to that? I think that's my biggest struggle.
Totally. And I think the word mindfulness, as an educator, I think scares a lot of us of like, well, I'm already having to teach curriculum. Like, you're telling me, a mindfulness curriculum, no way, can't add that to my routine. Or even just the idea of, I don't even know what mindfulness is in my own life. How do I teach it to kids? How do I lead that? And I see a lot of educators saying, how do I lead meditations or mindfulness practices when I don't even know what that means or how to do it in my own life? And so I think you're totally right. Like, it can be even just self-care and even modeling that to your students, right? And I am such a believer that we have to put that oxygen mask on ourselves first before that we can put it on others. And obviously, a crazy time right now to be thinking about masks, right? But it's the idea that in order to do that, we're truly helping others. What better time to be seeing that around us? And so the idea is, if you invest in your own life for mindfulness, right, then you're going to be more invested and want to be showing that. And when you see the benefits yourself, you're going to be more passionate about showing the benefits to the students, and they're going to be all in, just like if you're going to be all in. So I really recommend it starts with the teacher. And I do help other teachers with their mindfulness journey so that they can feel more comfortable to then model it, right, and teach it to their students.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I kind of see Catherine here just put in the comment that, teachers need to support one another as our students pick up on that energy. And that's kind of what you're hitting on, right? It's
totally
when we have that opportunity to really kind of I guess you could say, be the example, right? Set that example, live out that example, and that energy will come exuding off of us. I think that's, so true, right? So important.
And really in education, right? We're all stressed and we feel burned out, and then we're not able to have balance. Well, your students are going to pick up on that, right? So we want to make sure we see them more sometimes than their own parents do. So we need to try to hold ourselves to that standard, not only with, teaching them the things we need to get done on the list, but really having those pauses in those moments. How do we want them to live their life? Well, we need to make sure that we're in balance with that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, I would probably say what some people wonder about, and I think this is with me as well, is as a teacher, I may be able to do that, and we may model it kind of like what we were saying, and the kids can pick up on that. But and I'm interested. I know that we were talking earlier, and you have all of these different strategies and things like that I know that we can touch on, and I'm curious. Maybe you can talk a little bit about some of those. How do we as teachers, I guess you can say, implement mindfulness on the different levels that we teach? Some of us teach elementary, some teach middle school, some teach high school that are involved here today and in this particular open house event. I kind of want to give you the floor, and you can kind of take it from there. What could you tell us as far as implementing mindfulness on the different levels? Strategies, ideas, anything like that?
Totally. And I have a breakdown kind of. I like to be able to show you that in any age group, it can work. I worked with preschoolers all the way up to, adults. So all of these things. And really the biggest thing before I go into these is that, again, as a teacher, if you're excited about something, usually you can convince your kids to be excited about it. So you could show them something, even that I share with you, and you might say, oh, my kids will totally not go with that. They'll think it's a joke. But if you are all in and you're like, I do this, right? You kind of get that buy-in. So the biggest part of this is to get the buy-in. And even if you try it once and it's a complete fail, which failure only leads to success, it's okay. Keep trying. Even as adults, sometimes we try something at first, but we need some practice. We need some time. And just remind your students and remind yourself, it's a practice. It's a learning practice. So with that, a lot of these that I'm going to share with you, it could be, I want to share the younger ages first. And that could be something that you might actually see your older kids doing, and just play around with that and see what works and see what you enjoy to do yourself as well. So I challenge you to try these on your own as well before teaching your students. So let's get into that. So younger grades, really simple tips and tricks. And I also want to be mindful that if you are going to be starting virtually or you're going virtually, that these are things you can also implement online. So for the first one, the younger kids, you can do belly breathing, right? Super simple, connecting with your breath. Okay. So different ways to kind of get that easier for the kids to follow and kind of more hands-on, right? Because we could say take deep breaths, but sometimes we need something a little bit more to push us to really get in the zone with our breathing. So one option you can do, and I have little props here, is you can tell them, go find a stuffed animal, go find a little friend, whatever you need to do, maybe even a live friend, right? You got a dog, and actually lay on your back and put the stuffed animal on your belly. And take deep breaths and notice the rise and fall of that animal, of your best friend, stuffed animal, right? Going up and down, and really being able to see it. Now see what happens if you can expand it bigger or shorter. See what happens if you use shorter, quicker breaths, long, bigger breaths, and even saying, how does it feel different? And working through that is always a really cool way to kind of do more of a hands-on breathing exercise. And another one is the finger breath. This is one of the big ones that are super easy because all you need is your hand. And it's right in front of you. And you take your pointer finger of the other hand and you go up and down your fingers, like tracing the outline. And what's really cool is it's also a body connection. So you can feel it. And it's kind of cool to kind of feel the touch as you go, and saying, take a deep breath as you come in and exhale as you go down. You can say, again, with the younger ones, that you're like going on a train and you're going up and down the mountains, or, you can have some fun twist to it that connects with you. And again, I'm telling you this is younger grades, but this can also be older grades. And again, make it maybe a cooler, analogy of how they're breathing. And you can say, you can go forward and back, try to go slower. What happens if we go a little quicker? I mean, play around with it, make it your own, and don't be afraid to jump in and try that. But those are two really great exercises just to connect with the breath. And then adding either, your body involved or a stuffed animal friend involved. So that's tip one.
I think that's awesome. Now, my question to you with those two, would those be things that you wouldn't need a lot of time to do that, right? You would just need You can do that at the beginning of a class or something along those lines.
Yeah. And you can even play, you can get them to do it. And if you're like, wow, they're really doing a great job in the zone, it's that teacher wait time, right? Be like, oh, let's do one more round. If you really feel, don't lose that, right? When something really aha moment is happening, like let it last a little bit, right? Savor on that moment. But sometimes it can be just a quick thing. You could even say, when you're done with that test, right? I want to be able to see before you come and hand it to me. I want to see that you kind of take a few deep breaths and you go through your whole hand and breathe. Or, right, you put your hand on your belly and take a few deep breaths before or after, right? A test or a transition of your day. It can be so simple and easy. And the coolest thing is to see some students starting to do it when you haven't even prompted them, because they're going to realize that it does benefit them. They feel better.
Cool. All right. So I didn't want to interrupt you, but you can keep going. Interrupt
away.
All right. Go ahead.
Cool. So in the middle grades, we have, so you can incorporate bells and chimes are a really cool way. And you can kind of play different games with mindfulness, which is really cool. So here I have, and you can of course find them online. They're super easy to find, but here are bells and chimes here. Which has a beautiful sound. I love it. And the kids absolutely love it. And you can play with this. I have another one also here as well that I'll play for you guys. All right, so just different sounds. Sometimes I'll go back and forth between the sounds. I will say for a pointer, don't ever use chimes or bells or anything in the mindfulness realm to get kids' attention, because you don't want it to be something to get their attention, right, and focus. You want it to be separate of a time to be calm and to breathe. So that's what I would recommend. Try to stay away from that with getting students' attention with that. But with that, you can even say things like, I want you to close your eyes, listen to the bell, listen to the chime. And when you cannot hear it no longer, I want you just to raise your hand silently. So that's keeping them, again, in the present moment, which is what mindfulness is all about, right? The awareness, and having them close their eyes and try to listen to the sound until it ends. And then they just raise their hand. And so I'm trying to, and then maybe do it a few times if you have more time to be like, all right, see if you can get even better with it, right? And having them really listen to the very end of that. And also just a way to say, close your eyes in your seat. And I'm going to just play the bells for a little bit. I want you to either connect with your breath, connect with the sounds of the bells, connect with whatever, if there's a thought or a mantra, you can teach them an affirmation, which I have on my wall up here. I love picking affirmations and having them work with that. And it could just say, I am okay, and having them then repeat that. You can give them a new it's called an anchor, a new anchor every day to work with, right? Is it going to be my voice and what I'm saying? Is it going to be the bells? Is it going to be their breath? You can really play around with that practice of using the bells and the chimes. And that's kind of more, again, for the middle grades, but also, again, younger and older. Totally works kind of all around.
And I really like how you put in there to not use it, or to almost have it separate from something to get their attention. I know that second one that you have there, interestingly enough, I have that exact one in my classroom, right? So, and it's pretty interesting. And I know that a lot of teachers may have something like that. And it's good to know that there's a good simple tip not to use it, for two things, because I personally have been guilty of that, right? I have that exact bill. We've done mindfulness things in, mindful practice, and we've done some initiatives in my school district. And that's actually where that bell came from. They gave it to us, and and this is a vulnerable moment, but I've used it in the past where it was like, ding, and it would get everyone's attention, right? But then what I realized was, when I tried it for mindfulness stuff, or for the purpose in which it was designed, it didn't work. It wasn't, right. It really weren't, and I get it, it was my fault, but they were confused. Was this something to get our attention, or was this something to really help us focus, help us breathe? Right. So I really like that tip, because I wish somebody would have told me that earlier,
Yeah, because right, you're using that to kind of get their attention to you, right? And really what we want to use it for is for them to get an attention to themselves, into the moment, into the present. So it's a confusing, wait, what is this for? So totally. Yeah. But I mean, again, I know many teachers that have done that. And I think earlier in my journey, right, of not knowing that, I probably have done that as well, because it makes sense. It's a nice sound and it can get their attention, but we want to definitely keep it separate.
Cool. Okay. And keep going.
All right.
A lot of people are saying simple, effective ideas. I really like the
tangible. That's what I'm all about. I get you, right? It's different if someone's coming with mindfulness ideas and throwing all these things at you that aren't simple, easy, and quick, because I get it. As an educator, you don't want to put one more thing on your agenda, but when you can add these in little, times, the transitions, it's awesome and so effective. So Awesome. Thank you guys all for the comments. So for the higher grade levels, and again, you can totally transition this through different grade levels, but a big thing is the journaling and affirmations. So one of the best things that I could tell you was a life changer for me in my own life, because again, when I'm teaching these things, I want to make sure that I'm doing them in my life. And one of the ones that I will always live by is gratitude journals. So every night before I go to bed, I write down at least 10 things that I'm grateful for and specific to that day. So it's easy just to say, and a lot of kids will go family, friends, school, my teachers, right? But you want to say, no, pull in deeper. And again, maybe younger grades, you start off with that, but older, I'm going to say specifically today. Maybe it was the high five that I received from my friend when I walked into school, right? The cute little bird that I saw on the playground when I was playing, and it made me smile or laugh, and it was cute and made my heart happy. I want to get really specific, because the more specific you can, and the more that you don't repeat day to day, it makes it that much more special and that much more mindful, right? So that's a huge thing. And again, that could be the warm up in the morning while you're taking attendance, that they write a gratitude journal every day and get them in the mode of that. Now, if every day seems overwhelming, maybe it's, gratitude Mondays, where on Mondays they know they walk in and they do that. Maybe again, it's before transition time, or there's a little tedious thing you have to do in your period with them, that you can give them that, go, or even think or share with a partner, right? Be able to communicate and connect. Social connection is so important, right? Be able to do that with a peer and say, what were you grateful for yesterday? Grateful for today is a great thing to do. Journaling in general, right? Having them say, write about your day so far, write about your morning. That's another awesome thing. The more that kids can write, right, the better. And yes, you can journal on the computer, and especially if you have bad handwriting or the students are really reluctant to write out, just say, you can do on the computer. But ideally, it's best to write it down, because when you write it down, it actually makes it, again, more mindful, more present, and more worthwhile. So that is a really great thing that I like to do. And taking it kind of off the paper, right, or the computer, you can also, I love to do these simple check-ins with my students where I say, from 1 to 5, tell me how you're feeling today. And I have them show it on their hand, right? So they can put it on their chest. And sometimes I'll say, I don't want you to look at anybody but me. So, because sometimes, if you want that privacy of students, usually students are okay with having the other students know, because a lot of times they'll open the floor and say, maybe if we're all okay and comfortable, look around. And if someone's like a 2 or a 1, kind of keep an eye on them today, maybe check in with them later. And again, that social connection and that empathy and concern and care for others, as well as I also highlight those that are 5, awesome. Maybe you can help bring up the other ones, right? And then maybe a few shares, like, why are you feeling like a 2 if you're interested in sharing that? Or why are you a 5? And just having that, again, present moment conversations about how you're truly feeling. And I like to put it on their chest, and they can feel their heart and kind of like really take in where they're really at today, right? Where they're showing up. And sometimes I'll share where I'm at. Again, I'm doing the practice, right? I'm feeling a 4 today and they can see that real interaction that I'm also a human being and I'm practicing mindfulness.
I love it. And I think, and a lot of this, even at that higher grade, is very adaptable. Kind of, Nancy had put a comment that younger students could draw if not capable of writing, right? These are great adaptable things I think are awesome. I actually do gratitude journaling myself.
Yay!
And I created something, maybe I can actually post it in the files. I had done it for my students, and kind of some of the teachers that I work with said, oh, can you figure out, like, how do you do that? And I made like a 5-day Kickstart, right? It's like a gratitude journal Kickstart. And basically it's kind of how I started. Like, I thought, oh, here's 5 days, and I kind of do very specific things. It's just a PDF. It's really simple. I'll probably put it in the files of this group. So anyone that's on here, I'll put it up later just in case you wanted to download it or do whatever. It'll be up in the group. But yeah, I love the idea of journal. I'm a big journaler. I have my students, I teach, well, I do teach language arts, right? So all of my students journal every single day in different things. So I really like how this could be essentially a daily thing for them as well.
Yeah, and so Chuck, what I love too is even just in this conversation, right? Like, maybe you didn't realize, like, oh, I'm already incorporating some mindfulness in my class that I didn't even realize. I think that's what's really cool, is that hopefully there are teachers watching right now that are like, oh, either one, I've thought of doing something like that, or I kind of did something like that before. So let that be kind of, exciting to be like, oh, maybe I can kind of do a little bit more. Or even if it's, I've thought about it, like, maybe now make it a reality for yourself. And no, what I think is so cool, kind of a cheat sheet, right, is that when you're doing it with your students, you're also doing it. So being like, I don't have time, I teach all day, like, wait, I can add that. Because I will have moments where I'm like, I need to take a deep breath right now, right?
Yeah.
Well, let me get my kids involved in it. So it's a great way to kind of figure out what self-care you enjoy in the mindfulness realm that you can share with your students. Because if you're feeling like you need it, probably your students do too.
Cool. No, I love it. I think I love all of these ideas. I think they're fantastic and really practical. I think that's the key thing, like you had said before, because I think sometimes people can feel overwhelmed. And I also think sometimes with good intention, I think that we're asked to incorporate mindfulness, but it's basically told to, all right, we're going to do a mindfulness, day, or we're going to do a mindfulness period, or you're going to take away a period from instruction and do it this way, where I like what you're saying. It could be infused kind of into what you do already. So you don't have to worry or think that, oh no, I'm going to have to now have an entire different curriculum. Like that's not what it's designed to do. So I really like the ideas that you're putting out there.
Totally. Because you think about it, if it's just a day that your school does mindfulness or, it's not showing the importance, right? If something's important, you want to do it every day, right? So we do the Pledge of Allegiance every day, right? That's important. We don't just say, oh, we're going to do it once a week or once a year. And so even a perfect example, I'll do sits with my students. And last year I did, we'd go outside and we find a spot and they would just sit and watch a certain, point. And I remember at first I'm going like, what is this? Laughing, joking around. And again, I could have just quit it then. They're not picking it up. They don't like it, right? And then I just forget it. But I was like, no, I'll keep going. And more I did it. And again, making sure you're complimenting, like, wow, so-and-so is doing such a great job with being mindful and the way that they're sitting and breathing, right? And then there's a point, no joke, there was a point probably a few weeks in or a month in that we were doing it. And one of my students even came up to me that day and we hadn't done it yet and said, Miss Wilk, are we gonna do our mindfulness sit today? And you have to be patient and wait because soon they're going to be craving it. Yeah. It's really a magical thing to see.
I love it. And just to answer with Nancy, the way that I do this, she said, would you use the same journal for other writing as well or keep them separate? And you could hit on this, how you do it. I actually, when I implemented the gratitude journal, so they had done a gratitude journal and I happen to teach middle school and a lot of them are very into manga. I think that's how you say it. And the way that is, and that's essentially the way that the books they're read from the back to the front, right? So they're not like a traditional book, they start in the back. So what I have them do is, so Nancy, this is what I do. I have my kids journal from the front going towards the middle on their regular days. But when they have gratitude, they start from the back and they come to the middle so that eventually both meet in the middle. And we kind of talk about, how everything in our life will, we intersect and everything kind of blends together, right? So they find it fascinating that as they're getting closer and closer, it's, they have the journal on this side and then they have the gratitude side and they meet both together. That's how I do it. One reason why was I tried to be creative. A lot of my students said, I only have one notebook. So I didn't want them to feel like they had to go buy something or get another one. So I tried to be creative with it, but that's how we had done it. And it worked well. They really liked it.
Yeah. And I think you nailed it because what you're doing is you're making it your own, right? And doing that's an amazing way to do it. I've never heard of doing it that way before. That is great. And so I think to answer the question, my quick response to that is do it whatever way you're going to do it, right? So if you're like, I don't see myself doing it with a separate gratitude journal and my normal journal my normal notebook that they're using, then have them do it on top of their paper, right? And again, maybe you're seeing your students liking to do it a different way. Again, some of those students, maybe they're like, I don't want to have to write it. And maybe you say, I want you to email me at the end of the week, your days, and they want to do it and they send it to you that way. And you're getting the buy-in from them in that way, then awesome, right? Any way that you can get the buy-in and any way that you feel like you could, again, not add more stress to your day and your teaching, but that sounds good to you. So if you want to do Chuck's way of doing it backwards, that's awesome. I think that's so cool. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, thanks. Like I said, I think that it depends on the teaching style and the kids that you have in your class. Age maybe come into that as well. But yeah, and I know I think Catherine was talking about incorporating virtual journals, right? Like any of those types of things could really work well in this. So I absolutely love it.
Totally.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us, I know, and I tried to get it scrolling. I know we had talked, I tried to get that link scrolling, but what I'll do is I'll put that link when this posts, so I'll put it up there. But why don't you tell us, I know that there's a lot of people, now I am not clearly a mindfulness expert, right? But I know that you run some great stuff with mindfulness. So if you want to just if people are like, hey, I want to dive in deep with this and really focus on some mindfulness stuff, with Mariel, what could I do?
Yeah, totally. So, and I'm going to be transparent, open with you as I always am. So with everything going on with the world being uneasy, when I dove into the summer and, with saying I want to share my passions and my gifts and being able to do it in a way to hopefully bring, some good into the world, I started a mindfulness Facebook group, and to allow people to join in with me, and also to provide a good community online through Facebook. And Chuck, I was telling you, I think it's really good to check in about what groups and what people you're following on your social media, because if it's not providing you peace in your heart, why are you giving that energy? And so for me, I'm like, I want to create a safe space and a loving space of people that I love and people that have, are like-minded and want to make a better life for themselves. And so I have a group, Mindfulness with Mariel, on Facebook, and every Monday I go live and just share, some of the similar things that I've shared today. And usually it's like one thing and kind of a challenge for that week of mindfulness. And so it's so cool as an educator, you can totally watch those lives and incorporate it each week that you're teaching, and kind of even you could show that live. And a great way to show the live that I do is I also connect it to YouTube. And so I always was like, I'll never be a YouTuber, never do YouTube, and here I am. But I just realized I wanted to be able to share these tips and tricks that really can help, especially in a time like this. So you can also find me on YouTube if you're not a big Facebook fan, or if you want to be able to share those videos. YouTube is also where you can find me with Mindfulness with Mariel.
Awesome. Yeah. And I will attach both your YouTube and Facebook group links to this particular, when it posts, I can edit it in and I'll put it in there so people can see that. So if you're watching us live, make sure you go into where this posts once it gets up on the Facebook group, so you can dive into that. And if you happen to be watching this as a recording, make sure you dive into those as well, because I think it's super important and really is something that could be very helpful.
Yeah, awesome. If you don't mind, I would love to end with a quick mindfulness sit.
Love it.
So, because I gave you all this information, and maybe again, if you're an educator like me, you're like, all the great ideas, gotta do them all right now, whatever. Let's take a breather together. And again, one thing too, I have affirmations on my board, and I have these here so that students, because again, you could always say, pick an affirmation. A lot of times that they're leaving or coming in for the day, they'll have to tell me an affirmation or to get in or to leave about themselves. I am, and say it out loud to me. But also too, in moments just to say, I want you to pick out an affirmation, because sometimes they'll redo the same one over and over again, right? I am awesome. I am cool. And so if you have a visual of different words, also you could have some good vocabulary. So again, older grades to younger grades, you can change the vocabulary.
Yeah.
A really great way to do that. So for right now, I want you to find a comfortable position. Hopefully maybe you're sitting. If you're sitting, that's fine too. And that can be just a little preview, because again, I want the buy-in from you guys and to notice the benefits of how you feel. So usually I'll start off with, maybe you place your hands in your lap. You just take a few deep breaths. And maybe you haven't noticed all day you're breathing. And so this is a time to maybe bring some gratitude to your breath. Some gratitude for being alive today, being here today, your lungs supporting you. Maybe taking the biggest breaths of your day. Inhaling and exhaling. I like to sometimes think of my inhales as kind of bringing in all the energy of the day, and exhale, letting it go. Any stress, anything that happened earlier today, anything any of your to-dos later today, and just kind of try to again sink into the present moment. Maybe you notice the sounds around you. Maybe you feel your body on the chair, wherever you're sitting or standing. Just connecting to your breath here and keeping your eyes closed. And again, if you notice your mind wandering, just try to bring it back to the present moment, either connecting with your breath, maybe the sounds around you. Maybe you want to connect to an affirmation. I am, fill in the blank, and I challenge you to pick something that maybe you don't feel 100%, but fake it till you make it and bring that in. And with each exhale, maybe bring deeper into the present moment. Maybe you connect to the sounds of the bells. Maybe breathing in as you hear the bell, exhaling as you hear the sound dim. And one more deep breath, holding at the top. Maybe taking in a little bit more air and fully exhaling out. And slowly opening your eyes. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Hopefully you feel a little calmer and more present to continue the rest of your day, the rest of your week.
And yeah, thank you so much. I think that was great. I'll be honest with you. I was watching my camera because I wanted to make sure it wasn't dying. But I think that is awesome. Thank you so much for ending that way, for all of the tips and stuff. I can see so many people already commenting and really getting a lot out of it. So Mariel, I want to say thank you so much for that session. Love that we were able to come in live. These bonus live sessions during this are just really cool. But this will be recorded, so it'll be on our Facebook page as well. And that way anyone can come in and kind of take a look at it at any time. So it's also on, I think, the YouTube. We're streaming to YouTube as well, fingers crossed. So it should be good to go. So thank you so much. Is there anything that you want to tell anyone, like how they can follow you, or if you're on Twitter or anything like that?
Yeah, so again, the Facebook group, YouTube, Mindfulness with Mariel. I'm also new to Instagram Live, so that's another great way to connect with me as well. But yeah, Mindfulness with Mariel, usually if you look that up, you'll find it. And I know, again, the links will be posted here before that. But yeah, and also feel free to reach out to me with any questions. You can find me, obviously, on Facebook, Mariel Wilk, and I'm happy to help in any way that I can. It's my pleasure to help you in your journey as well as your future teachers, future students. And yeah, I'm really happy to help in any way that I can. And Chuck, I'm grateful for you and for having me here so I can share that. And I hope that you guys gain a little bit more confidence to be able to share this, not only to your students, but to incorporate in your life and know that you can totally do it. Make it your own. Don't doubt yourself and just keep at it. It's a practice, right? It's always a practice.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And you're part of our Teacher Success Lounge group, so we can easily find you right in here. So that's awesome.
Exactly.
Right. Great. Thank you so much. I really love that this was our live session to kind of kick things off, right? So I really think people will get a lot out of it. So thank you so much, Mariel, for coming in, sharing your wisdom and insight in this area. And I just want to say, I guess the last thing to say is that, tomorrow we'll have a couple more sessions for people to dive in. Feel free to jump on. You'll have 24 hours to watch the ones going on there. And then we have some more lives coming in. So again, Mariel, thank you so much for being live with us. And make sure that everyone here, make sure you follow Mariel, as well as jump in on that when I put the links in the Facebook group and YouTube as well. So
thank you so much, Chuck. You are awesome.
Oh, thank you. And I will talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Bye-bye.